Greeting from the Asian Productivity Organization. I welcome to Productivity Talks, a series of discussion and conversation with international experts on productivity-related topics. I'm Sun Teng Fan, Program Officer at the APO Secretariat based in Tokyo, Japan, and the moderator for today's session. In this P-Talk, we will touch on the topics rapid cost reduction approaches for SMEs. The small and medium enterprises, the SMEs, are a significant contributor to global economic development. According to the World Bank, they represent about 90% of businesses and more than 50% of employment worldwide. However, SMEs often face with many challenges that can prevent them from reaching their development goals, in which limited access to finance is a key constraint and the second most cited obstacle. To overcome this challenge, stay competitive, and maximize returns, it is important for SMEs to optimize costs in addition to seeking finance resources. However, cost reductions is not always straightforward for SMEs because it requires to have a certain knowledge, techniques, effort, and particularly the right approaches. So if you are an SME who is struggling with finance resources and looking for innovative approaches for rapid, efficient cost reduction to increase productivity and profitability, this P-Talk is definitely the right one for you. So let's find out what are the rapid cost reduction approaches for SME with our today expert, Mr. Alex Yap Yun Fung, Director EcoLean Consultancy Company from Malaysia. Good afternoon, Mr. Alex, and thank you very much for joining our P-Talk today.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Sun. So it's my special privilege to be work with APO for the P-Talk, and I'm looking forward to share my experiences in the cost reduction for the SME.
Thank you very much. We are so eager to learn from you. So before starting, I would like to give our viewer a brief profile of our resource person today. Mr. Alex Yap is a highly experienced professional trainer and consultant with more than 20 years of expertise in a wide range of areas, including quality improvement, green productivity, cost saving, management system, and Kaizen list. He is an approved Human Resources Development Fund HRDF trainer and registered consultant with Malaysia Productivity Corporation MPCs, where he is recognized as a business excellence assessor and productivity specialist. Alex Yap is also a qualified auditor in ISO 9001, ISO 22000, and a UNIDO certified expert in ISO 50001. He holds a certification as a quality engineer and senior membership in the American Society for Quality, the ASQ, a founding member of the ASQ Malaysia Local Member Committee, and currently serves as Malaysia ASQ Country Controller. In addition to his work with ASQ, Alex Yap has collaborated with the APO on various green productivity, material flow cost accounting, MFCA, and lean-related projects. Since 2004, he has been serving as a technical expert or resource person for many national productivity training and consultancy projects, making him a highly respected and sought-after professional in his field. Wow, Mr. Alex, we're so proud of you, so many expertise. So we are very pleased that you can join with us and share your insight for today's talks. So to our viewer, please be informed that there will be a live question and answer session at the end of the session. So if you have any question for Mr. Alex Yap, please post them with your name and your country in the live chat box. We will try to answer you as much as possible. So Mr. Alex, you cannot wait any further. Can you please start your presentation today? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sun, for the very great introduction itself. Right. So it's really my pleasure to share with you my experiences in how to conduct cost reduction in a very rapid manner with the small and medium enterprise, or in some country we call small and medium businesses itself. All right. So when I work in one of the small and medium enterprise, of course, many years ago, when I served as a quality manager, I thought the main concern or the priority concern of the company will be productivity and quality. So this is the one that I choose when I was young. But when I grow over the year, so I thought the sustainability should be the main concern or should be the priority concern itself. But when I work closer with the management of the company, when I work closer with all the bosses, they told me profit is everything. So they needed the profit in order the small and medium enterprise, in short SME, to be survive in the market. They're not even sure that can the company survive for the next 6 months. So that's why sufficient profit is one of their main concern. So gradually, when I move in into training consultancy business, I have the opportunity to work with many small and medium enterprise bosses, the business owner. They are concerned always the profit. Do we have sufficient profit to survive or to sustain the businesses itself? So if the concern will be the profit, how should we increase the small and medium enterprise profit itself? So in front of here, you can see that we have three recommendations: increase price, reduce cost, or increase the sales. So the first one, increase price, should be very straightforward and it could be very easy, but may not be the best strategy. You know why? Because if we are the only one who increase the price, but others players in the market, others competitors remain the same price, that means people are not going to buy from us. So how about increased sales? So increased sales could be correlated with the price of the product or the services that we are offering. All right. So if we have lower the price, it's going to be directly or likely contributed to increase of the sales. So in this context, how about reduce cost? So reduce cost is something that we can control. If we're able to reduce the operational cost, if we're able to reduce the manufacturing cost itself, if you contributed to reducing the price of the product or the services that we wanted to offer, and that will be directly increase the sales as well. So in this context, in many of our projects, that in order to increase the SME profit, we always look into how to reduce the cost of manufacturing, cost of operation itself. But definitely it's going to be challenges, it's going to be obstacle that may happen when we try to reduce the cost for the company. Challenges such as technology, willingness, know-how. And of course, the willingness that I'm referring here, if you ask the business owner, the management, they're definitely willing to reduce the cost. But how about other stakeholder, their supplier, fellow employee? Are they willingly involved in the commitment to reducing the cost? That could be another questions and all that, all right? And how about the know-how? But despite all this, the biggest challenges for SME is going to be this: lack of resources. Not much resources available, all right? And if you're looking into automation, if you're looking into industry 4.0, installing sensors and all that, definitely is a no for most of the small and medium enterprise, because for them, it's going to be very limited resources available. And how about competencies, right? Competencies remain another challenge for most of the small and medium enterprise. Part of the reason because they do not have competence worker in most cases. The manager, the supervisor, the operator, the clerk, the QA, QC, it could be the same person itself. And times and moreover the data. They even lack of mechanism to collect and also to record the data. So without the data, to start with the cost reduction, it could be tricky and it could be challenging itself. So in this context, what can we do with that? All right. And on the screen now is the three most popular questions that most of the business owner, they always ask me when we started with the cost reduction project with them. Where can we reduce the cost? Which processes and how much cost that actually can be reduced? So with this context, usually we'll use two particular tools that actually help us to identify the area, process, and also how much before we actually start with the cost reduction process. So now, let me introduce two common tools that we may available in the market now. The first one, material flow cost accounting, MFCA in short. So we're going to use MFCA for businesses that with a lot of material uses and a lot of energy usage as well. Then we will use MFCA to help us visualizing the flow of resources in order to identify the area that with a lot of wastages. Then we can start with the cost reduction initiative. And for business that with not too much utilization on resources, not too much utilization in terms of raw material or maybe the energy, electricity, then we use a VSM. So we want to find out the efficiency of the processes itself. So for any area that lack of those efficiency, then we actually can start with the cost reduction or the improvement initiative with that. But nevertheless, we will always ask this: if we do MFCA or if we use VSM, is that directly contributed to cost reduction? Would that reduce the cost directly? Well, our experience tell no. Not at all right? So tools like MFCA or VSM is actually help us to visualizing, help us to see where the flow of the resources, which area or which particular step of the processes itself is actually efficient or maybe not efficient, or maybe a lot of wastages that happen. So in this context, the tools that are available is actually help us to visualize which area for us to start with, and also how much it could be the cost that we targeted to reduce. But remember, we actually working with small and medium enterprise for most of the cases. Of course, if we have sufficient data to come up with Shanky diagram in the various, in the MFCA application, then you can see the flow of the resources is very easy for us to identify which area that we're supposed to do the cost reduction, and same apply with the VSM. But coming back to the context of today's discussion, we are dealing with small and medium enterprise. So in this context, as I mentioned earlier on, there are lack of resources and also lack of available data. So you may wonder, hey, can we collect new data? Then it's going to take times. And most of their workers, they may not too competent in exercising the data collection and also the data recording, and don't talk about the balancing and all that, right? So in this context, we can see that cost reduction in small and medium enterprise always lack of data, right? Not only lack of data, as I mentioned, competence. Competence personnel is also very limited in most of the small and medium enterprise. So how we able to see the flow of the resources? If we're not able to see the flow of the resources, then we do not know where's the money go. If we do not know where's the money go, that means the cost reduction initiative, it could be a little bit challenging itself. You see, for any businesses process, they actually convert raw resources into a value adding product or services. So in this context, it may utilizing material, labor, or energy. So along the processes itself, to convert input into outputs, wastages may be happen along the way. So for example, unutilized resources, unnecessary waiting, waste generation, process waste, and all that is all happen. But the question will be how much? So how we able to see all this? So with this regard, we actually work on a modified approach. We're not using the traditional MFCA or VSM, knowing that most of the SME, they do not have sufficient data and they do not have skill or competence worker in place to execute the project itself. So I would like to share with you one of our case that we did few years back, right? So this is a wooden door manufacturer, and they have 120 workers, right? 120 workers. You can see that I put in here a bracket at 100 plus family, right? So this is lesson that I learned from my previous management. He told me that if I'm responsible for one company with 120 workers, may not limited to 120 workers, but actually 100 plus family, because each of them, they make a living and they need all this money for their family as well. So in this situation, if we look at this case, so we have 120 workers, the impact is actually more than 100 plus family that actually involved in this, right? So this company having annual sales of around 50 million a year. So but in April to May 2020, right, 3 years back, their sales reduced significantly, reduced almost 60%, all right? So this company is actually supplied to the domestic market, but if you check the time stamp here, I believe you can guess what really happened. This is a time when the COVID, the pandemic's getting very, very serious in that extent. So most of the business activity actually stopped, and the domestic market is actually not really not too much demand, and they try to consider can they actually export their product, but not likely because of the price itself. You know why? If they try to export with their current price, it's not going to be competitive in the overseas market. So they are considering can they reduce price to survive. So how are they going to do that? Reducing the manufacturing cost, but where? Which area can they reduce the manufacturing cost? So they have limitation. For example, they have no competency in terms of cost reduction. No one tried this before in the company, and they have no data, and they have no clue where should they start. But they only have one idea that they wanted to reduce. They wanted to reduce the cost. So in order to survive the company, and remember that company work with 120 workers, so they want to survive the 100 plus of family in the pandemic time. So now we started the project. Oh, before that, let me share with you how it look like. So this is how the company look like, all right? So you can see that they're making this kind of the wooden door, all right? So they have a lot of raw material, all right? So for some of you that if you are in the lean practitioner, I believe you can tell holding a lot of stock is not a good strategy, all right? So they have a lot of raw material, and the process itself is pretty manual. A lot of worker involved, not too much automated process. They do not have the resources. Remember, they are small and medium enterprise. They may not, in fact, they actually do not have the resources to look into automations, machinery, not too much. A lot of manual process. In fact, if you introduce a lot of machinery for them, most of the worker will have no work, all right? So, and also, yes, they utilize chemicals. Pollution happen here and there, all right? So, and of course, a lot of off-cut and also resources wastages along the way. So how we actually started this project? We start with very, very simple manner. We just ask them to put out their process in a flow manner, all right? So you can see in front of you here. So this is an overview of their process. So they start from the raw material, and this is the finished good. So this is the finished good, all right? So this is a process, the step that actually involve cross-cut and also molding, the stage 1 process, stage 2 process, painting job, stage 3, and they have the packing. So that's it. They have the product ready. So they just establish one overview of the entire process itself. So the next thing will be interesting. You see, looking at the process itself, we do not know which area can we do with the cost reduction, but we actually gather some of those very, very fundamental information to put in a bar chart itself. So you can see this is a cross-cut and molding area. So there's a value here in representing that the monetary, the money that we spend here. But how we able to gather the data? I did tell you that we have no data available, but they do aware how many workers for that process. Am I right? So they also aware what type of chemical, how much chemical they wanted to use for that particular process itself. So in this context, we do a very quick estimation to put in the cost involved for that particular step itself. So now in front of you is a very simple bar chart that overviewing the cost that's spent in the manufacturing process of the company that we are looking at now. So now, if you are in my position, which area that you wanted to start with? Cross-cut, stage 1, stage 2, painting, stage 3, or packing? Which area is going to be the primary concern? I believe you will pick the tallest one. Am I right? The stage 3, because this one occupies a lot of cost, $13,188 itself, all right, for one particular production batch. So if you want to pick up this one, then you should ask, what happened with this process? All right, so we already started to pinpoint one particular area in their process to start with the cost reduction project. Now we started to break it down. What will be the cost involved in the stage 3? So in ratio basis, this will be the cost involved. We have labor cost, energy cost, material cost, and also other costs as well. So now, what next? Just now we picked the higher cost one. Now we also can we still can follow the same approach itself. So among all this, which is the main contributor? The labor cost itself, all right? Contributed to most of the costing for the entire stage 3. So you will wonder, hey, why they want to spend a lot on the labor cost? So in this context, I started to ask them why. It's very similar like a 5 why. I said, why you spend a lot on the labor cost? Then they told me that we wanted to do a patching job. You know, their end product is a wooden door. So that means their raw material is a wood. So wood is a natural raw material. Somehow rather the quality itself may not be consistent. You see, so this is the one that they're working on. So if I can make this one slightly bigger to show you, I believe you can see that the quality of the wood is not really good. You have some dotted line here and there. You have some wormhole. You have some scratches, and also you have some dented. So that means they needed to do a patching job. Patching job is something that they mean they are repairing. They're repairing the quality of the wood before they actually move on to the next processes. So that's why they spend 80% of their labor is actually do the patching job itself. Okay, now we know the reason. So we're actually looking at alternate. So I start to ask them, hey, do you have alternative? Do you have another type of better quality type of wood that actually can skip some of the patching job itself? So they told me yes, but the price. So you can buy a better quality, better material, a better quality itself with lesser touch up or patching job, but it's going to cost us more. So then I asked them, let's try for one batch. Let's try for one batch. So you see, previously they used on your left, you can see that this one is the raw, is a raw type. I mean that they're having for the processing. So on your right hand side, you can see some wood is actually with better quality itself. So in this context, a better quality wood definitely is going to cost you more. It's a pre-treated wood, all right? But now let's look at the costing again, all right? So just now, if you want to do the comparison before and after, all right? So you can see that before, total cost is actually 13,188,000, all right? How about after? After is 8,900. So what happened? If we look at the ratio, the portion of the material is getting larger. It's getting larger. But the labor, the portion of the labor cost from before compared with after is getting smaller. The reason behind, they spend more to get a better quality woods. But anyhow, because the wood is actually ever pre-treated, it's easier. They won't need to do a lot of patching. They don't need to use a chemical. They don't need to do the repair. So in this context, the usage on chemical reduced. The usage of the labor or the manpower is actually reduced. So in this case, they spend more to save. They spend more to save. So that means that they're actually getting a more expensive wood as a raw material, but their overall cost is actually reduced. So it's just a switch in terms of the purchasing strategy. Instead of buying the cheapest one, but consider the overall effect. So they buy slightly more expensive, but the overall cost reduced. But how come this happened? All this started because we started to visualize. We started to visualize the costing for each of the step itself, right? So with that in mind, this is the result that they're able to achieve. So they reduce the assembly time from 98 minutes. They reduce the 98 minutes for every single dose. Sorry, I'm not able to disclose how much time they use in total. But if we compare before and after, the reduction is 98 minutes reduced. Chemical usage wise, 70% for every single dose reduced. And of course, the waste disposal, 50%, right? So every single door that they're manufacturing now, they're able to reduce 30%. 30% of the cost that they're able to achieve in very, very short period of time. So with the price reduced, now they can start to offer their product online. They also can offer their product for overseas market. Previously, they're not able to offer the product online. Part of the reason because of the price and the manufacturing cost is already rather high. Additional logistic or additional transport costing equal to make their product is not competitive. All right. So you may wonder, we reduce our manpower. What happened with the extra manpower? All right. So we think about that as well. Right. For the extra manpower now, we actually offer on-site installation services. So that make them slightly different compared with others player. So in conclude, they had 20% sales increase in August, and they now offer new furniture installation services with the extra manpower that they're holding in now. So in short, this project is only cost us around 2 weeks time. So the team consists of 3 persons, all right? The manager of the company, one of the clerk, and also the one that talking to you now. So that's 3 of us. In fact, the manager always busy, so I'm always work with the clerk. And for this project, actually, I work remotely because during the pandemic time, I'm not able to travel. So everything is actually through online. So practically, it's actually 2 of us to work for 2 weeks time. So the methodology, if I really wanted to summarize that, you can see the approach is actually just step 1, 2, and 3. Instead of material flow, MFCA style with the material balance, Shanky diagram, or with value stream mapping and all that, we actually just put everything in a very, very simple and direct manner that we just establish a process flow. Just lay out what is the process that involved. And for each of this step, we just put in some allocation of cost, not directly precise cost allocation. All right. So if you send to the account department, definitely they will challenge now this costing may not precisely balance and all that. Not really matter, because our objective is actually not to create a perfect balance in the account, but we wanted to reduce the cost. We wanted to see where is the area that we actually can reduce the cost. So step number 2, we just allocate estimation of cost. Then step number 3, we started to ask why, and we actually started to reduce the cost already. So in this context, you can see that we actually just use step 1, 2, 3. All right. So of course, if you really want to look at the approach now, we try with many others, small and medium enterprise. The key concern of this method, I would say that we learn to see flow of the resources, monetary, of course, and we reduce whatever that we are concerning. All right. So we make things visualize, and we keep it simple as possible. So what do you involve? Pens, pencils, and all that. Estimation cost for step and activity. You won't need the complete set of data to back you up, but you can actually estimate the cost. Let's say the worker. How many workers involved in that particular process? The direct labor. So let's say there's 3 workers, then you just put in 3 manpower. There's a costing for that, right? So what is the chemical or material or maybe the packaging that they utilize? So in the estimation manner, right? So and make everything visualize in a graph, in a bar chart. Then you actually can select the high one, the one that will a lot of cost. Then you actually can start to ask why and which one that you're going to be concerned, and you brainstorm for alternate solution or maybe alternate material that you may consider. All right. So that will be pretty simple in this manner. So remember things visually, and also keep things as simple as possible. Part of the reason, as I already mentioned to you, because for most of the small and medium enterprise, they have lack of resources, no data, and they want things happen overnight if possible. So because most of my case that I start with cost reduction project with them, they ask me, can the result seen by the following week? And if possible, they asked me yesterday. All right. So they're not too patient in time. So that's why you can see the approach is actually very, very simplified. Just step 1, 2, and 3. All right. So with that, I believe I almost reached the presentation time limit. So I would appreciate if you have any questions or any opinion that we can exchange. That will be great help. All right. So back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Alex. I think your presentation is very interesting and comprehensive. And we know more about the significance of the cost reduction to SMEs, and then the challenges in reducing costs, and more importantly, the approaches should be adopted through the utilization of the visualization technique that I can say to identify and eliminate unnecessary costs during the production process and flow of the resource, right? To make it more productive and more profitable. Okay, so now we would like to move on to question and answer sessions. I would like to encourage everyone, our viewer, to post your questions to Mr. Alex with your name and your country on the YouTube live chat box, and we'll be looking forward to answering them. And Mr. Alex, before taking the question from the viewers, I would like to add you some of my own. So I have prepared some questions. So would you like to pick up the difficult one first or the easiest one first?
Let's try the difficult one first, all right?
Okay, yes, okay. So this is one for you. So what is the key to success in the cost reduction? I know there's many things that involved in the cost reduction, So is this the data, or is this the human resources, or the competencies of the one who carry out the cost reduction assessment or something like that? So which one is the most important, or what is the key to success to reduce the cost here?
Wow, that's kind of $1 billion question, all right? The key success in cost reduction. I put it that way. First thing first, all right? So the key success factor that I can consider will be, first of all, you need to know how much. You need to know how much, all right? So that means we need to know the value, because you see, for most of the businesses itself, the wastages and all that could be very common for them. They will see this every day, so they not really feel this is kind of waste anymore. But when you put the number, when you put the price tag on it, so that make it different, right? So if you're looking at, oh, this waste is actually cost us this amount of money. So 1 month is actually a amount. So 1 year is going to be 12 times the amount itself. So that number actually make it significant. So that's why the key success factor, we have to put the price tag on how much the waste. So then you have the motivation to start with the cost reduction. All right.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Alex. So we know that we need to know how much we want to reduce, right? So that we can now measure the success of the cost reduction activities. Okay, so let's move on to the second questions. So what are the common cost reduction mistakes that SME should avoid? Yeah. So could you answer that?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. You see, when we come to costing and all that, there's two common mistakes that we can consider. The first one will be confidentiality of the information. For many small and medium enterprise owner, the business owner, the bosses, they may assume, they have a perception that the cost is something that very confidential. No one should aware. Only the business owner aware that how much profit they make, how much the raw material cost them, how much the electricity bill every month, how much the salary they pay in total and all that. So they will treat all this information confidential. So if you actually show up, you cover up all this cost information. So they mean the worker, they mean everyone who actually work in the same working environment, they don't feel the urgency. They do not know the significant level, the impact level, because they do not know the number. So that's one. So the first mistake that we should prevent is actually, it should be certain level of communication of cost. It should be certain awareness in terms of cost. To be very frank, because now most of the costing is actually, you're actually able to figure out with Google and all that. Roughly, you actually can estimate. So not too much confidential. So confidentiality, there's something that we should look at, the first one. The second one that I want to touch on will be, many companies, when they try to do the cost reduction, they are very, I would say that they are very aggressive, and also they have very high expectation. Try to capture all the cost element. try to make sure that all the numbers that appear on the project is actually verified and also accurate in a way. Make sure all the cost data is accurate and also complete. So this is something that it's going to take a long time. So remember, what are we doing now? Are we actually going for cost accounting exam, or we actually wanted to reduce the cost? So if you want to reduce the cost, the level of accuracy, the level of complete of the data is something that you should be compromised. You can compromise with that. So I won't say with no accountability, but just go back to the fundamental cost will do, but won't need to go into a very accurate manner or not going to be so much complete itself. So I've seen some project that we actually, I think actually we did it together with APO many years back. All right, we have a demo project in Malaysia. So there's some company that they are very focused on the accuracy of the project. So the project take over 2 years, no result yet. But for some company that they focus on the cost reduction instead of the accuracy and complete or the completion of the data, they started the cost reduction in the second month already. So over the 2 years, they already achieved $1 million of saving. But the first company that I mentioned, they still focus on the calculation. So that means do not spend too much time on the calculation. You're not going to get a perfect costing, all right? You're not doing an accounting test. Remember, we want to do the reduction itself, right?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. Very, easy to understand. I think the information is very useful for the SMEs. And we know that for cost reduction, even though that is very important, but it cannot be done in the rushed manner, And then we also have a careful look, and we need certain kind of data, and also need to focus, also consider the confidentiality level of the information, Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's very, very useful. And now we received a couple of questions from our viewers, and I think we can address some of them right now. I think the first one is from Mr. Amit Kumar. I think maybe he's from India. The question is, how can outsourcing or partnering with external service providers help SMEs reduce costs while maintaining core competencies? So, Mr. Alex, can you address this question from Mr. Amit Kumar?
Yes, I would love to address this. You see, cost reduction in the supply chains always a very, very interesting topic itself, right? External provider, and typically there's something that we have to consider. First of all, with the external provider or with vendor or with supplier, first of all, we have to ask, do the SME having bargaining power? Do they buy a lot? If they buy very, very limited, once in a blue moon, then the partnering and also the cooperation with the supplier may not really happen because the number itself is small. So again, this comes back to the point that I always share with you, the price tag. When you look at the price, it's relatively small, the amount itself. So in this context, the external provider or the supplier, they may do not have the motivation to participate, right? But if you buy a lot, that means you have bargaining power. So we do have some projects that are very interesting one. One of the small and medium enterprise, they actually buy packaging material, plastic bottles, HDPE plastic bottles, right? So they buy from supplier A, B, and C, 3 main supplier they bought, right? So when they want to do a cost reduction initiative, they invite their 3 suppliers together. But this ABC is actually competitor relationship, all right? They don't like each other, but they have no choice because the customer bought a lot from them. So then they have to come into the boat. And what the company actually did was, it's actually helped them to visualize that cost element to find out which supplier doing best in certain process. Let's say A do very good on the blowing process for the plastic bottles, B do very good in the printing, and C do very good maybe in the inspection and testing and all that. Then do a cross benchmark. They do a cross benchmark. So after they do a cross benchmark, let's say before that, if they have 20% of wastages in terms of cost, after they learn from each other, they actually can benchmark the best practices and they're able to reduce. So in general, they actually achieve I think close to 90%. 90%, they mean 10% cost reduction among all the A, B, C supplier, and together with the company that who actually coordinating with them. So in this manner, of course, there's another key learning that I would like to share. It's going to be a win-win situation, right? So if you are coordinating your external partner or your supplier to do cost reduction initiative, you don't take all, right? You let them take all, right? So in our case, we suggest 70-30. They mean the supplier will enjoy 70% of the cost reduction, but you only ask for maybe 30% of cost reduction or maybe 20% and all that. So that's something that everybody happy, then the initiative will actually last longer, all right? So I hope I do answer the question that arises. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. And I hope that's already addressed the answer from Mr. Amit Kumar. Mr. Amit Kumar, we have another question, but let me get back to your questions later. Now we come back to another question from Mr. Hamad Aftar. He's from India also. His question is how to keep employees motivated for cost reduction, as cost reduction is a continuous process. Also, we do need any monitoring system. Yeah. Mr. Alex, can you address this question, please?
Yes. I really like this question. In fact, I like this question a lot. All right. So I do hope if some of the viewer now, if you are listening now, if you are the business owner, right? So consider this, all right? So you see, many small and medium enterprise, the business owner, they are very good to utilize the physical strength of their worker to make them work very hard, sweat and all that, no rest. So it seems that worth it for the salary that we pay. But there's one area that we lack of utilization is their mindset. I mean, we do not use their mental power. We do not ask them to think. We only ask them to work. All right. So if you start to explore that, then this one is very interesting. So how we going to keep the employee motivated? So previously, when I in charge, I told you that I work in the small and medium enterprise. So I'm not doing the cost reduction myself alone, but I involve everybody in the company. So how we can actually make them participate and also willingly to do instead of that I just ask them to do, right? If I ask them to do that, that's just another job, all right? So profit sharing, all right? So it's nothing like a secret, you see. For any improvement project that completed, so I'll get my account or my finance personnel to verify the saving. Let's say if they have saving of $100, so what are you going to do that? The worker who responsible for that kind of improvement or the cost reduction initiative, they're going to have 10% for 3 months. So let's say just now, if they're able to achieve $100 saving, so after verified by my account department, so we are credit 10%, that means $10 for the next 3 months. So they're going to have in total $30. So this is how they make some motivation. And in fact, previously when I tried this approach with my own, the company that I work with, and also with some of my clients, you can see that the worker is very motivated. They're willing to stay back after work, no overtime pay, but they have a small group discussion. It's very similar like a QCC, Quality Control Circle, or like a Kaizen. The only difference will be the achievement will be shared. So the answer for this question will be profit sharing. Give them a portion of it for some period of time, then they will encourage everyone to do. In fact, some of them, they make more money than me when I work in the company, all right? So that is the ultimate motivation factor, all right?
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. How to keep the people motivated is very important because without the motivation, so maybe our efforts maybe go to nowhere because no one want to, implement the incentive, right? So thank you very much, Mr. Hamad Aftar, again for the questions. And please let us get back to another question by Mr. Amit Kumar. I think this question is also very interesting too. So his question is, what risks and challenges should SME be aware of when implementing rapid cost reduction approaches and how they can mitigate them? Yeah. Mr. Alex, please.
Okay. Yes. So you see, the approach that I share is kind of a shortcut. It's a direct express manner. So what I'm trying to tell here will be we actually reduce cost by reduce waste. We not reduce cost by reduce quality. All right. So that's totally different two area, right? So that means we actually reduce the cost from reducing the unnecessary wastage itself, but not reducing the cost by reducing the quality. For example, thickness of the product, getting it thinner, all right, or maybe the welding strength, or maybe the finishing or the coating of the chemical, we by reduce, not that kind of reduction. All right, so we actually focus on the wastages but not on the quality. So the risk that can be happen, for example, some company, when they look at the number is big, the price tag is big, all right, so everyone is very motivated to look at the monetary impact. So at the same time, you still needed to have your quality gatekeeper. That means your QA or your QC, to ensure whatever changes that make or introduced or recommended by the cost reduction team, it should be tested, it should be verified before you actually confirm with the changes itself. So again, come back to my suggestion: reduce cost by reduce wastage, but not reduce cost by reduce the quality of your product or services. All right, so that's something that you have considered.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. I think the key message is very clear, and I think it's very important that reduce the waste, not reduce the quality, right? It's very so important. So I would like to encourage more questions from our viewer if possible. And now let me come back. I have some question for you. So
yes, please.
So yeah, so because they are small and medium enterprises, so they also have some common challenges. So is there also some common areas where SME they can quickly reduce costs? Yeah, according to your experience. Yeah.
So if they want to reduce the cost quickly, they may need to just follow the suggestions that I put out just now. Just do a bar chart with the cost element, because before they actually can jump into reduce cost, they need to know where their money goes. So if they spend the resources on labor, material, energy, packaging, chemical, in order to convert into a finished good, something that value added they can sell for a price. So usually we do not touch on the price, the selling price of the product, but we're going to touch on where's the money go internally. So something that they can control. It's not external, but internal factor. So if you want to do it very quickly, so just put up one bar chart according the flow, the sequence of your process. Then put in the number. Once the number plug in most cases, they know what to do. They won't need me. So when they look at the price tag is high, the bar is very high. So they actually started, the business owner will start to ask question. When they start to ask question, the solution will follow. All right. So again, just put on a bar chart with the cost element according to the flow of process. That's how we started. Visualizing, then you can start with the improvement.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I think come up with another question that somehow related to the previous one is that how can SME they can ensure that cost reduction do not negatively impact the product or the service quality?
All right. So then they have to ensure the wherever changes that introduced by the cost reduction activity, it should be tested and verified by the QA or maybe by the research and development department. So against this one, follow the tagline I want to share with you: reduce cost by reduce waste, not reduce cost by reduce quality. So for any business owner that they do have, I believe they have their requirement in regard of the product quality and also requirement or specification. That is the fundamental that they needed to comply. But of course, I think soon you ask a good question. You see, in some cases, if we find some of the requirements doesn't really contribute value, then maybe you can consider, for example, let's say you have a product that having some internal product, they're having some coloring and all that. I do have some, what we call a plastic part manufacturer. They supply to automotive industry. They mean the plastic part like insert is actually used inside assembly of a car. For consumer, for driver, you don't see that kind of part. But in their requirement, it actually stated the part needed in white color in the specification. All right. So in order to make the part in white color, they need to put in pigment or master batch, a color agent, additional processes. So it may cost around 10% of the total price of the product itself. But this additional costing is actually not giving any value added to the consumer. They actually don't need it. It's just a cosmetic, but this internal cosmetic is something that do not require, all right? So it could be something that no one spotted during the development process. So in this context, let's say if you find out something, it's something to do with the specification, but you do not see value of it. So then maybe is the best time that you actually can talk to your customer. Why don't we take out this and we share the cost reduction?
Yeah, right. Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. So we also received a couple of questions again. Here's from a question from Mr. Asa Santans. In a new business, what are the key tools to grab the customer other than good quality and competitive price? So I think this question is somehow related to the key technologies. So Mr. Alex, can you address these questions?
Okay, so it's a good question, but it may not directly involve in the cost reduction, but I'll try to take the question. You see, let's say if we offer something, a product or a service, a new one in the market. You see, all the businesses that survive or they're existing because of two reasons. One, they solve someone else's problem. All right. Second, they make someone else's life easier. All right. So that means you make someone's life more comfortable, or you solve their problem, or maybe both together. So in this context, now let's come back to the product or services that we provide to the market. I'm sure you're able to address number one or number two that I mentioned just now, or maybe both. All right. So let's say this is a new business. If you already have some other player in the market, so what will be the tools that you can consider will be the customer experience. That means the services. What kind of services and what kind of experience that you provide to your customer. I don't touch on the price and all that, the reason behind, because let's say this is a new businesses. So typically may not be the best time that you actually to do a cost reduction and all that, because you wanted to launch your business and all that. So what you can compete with others could be your customer experience. What kind of experience that you wanted to provide with them? Something that is not too much tangible, calculated in a monetary value, but it's going to be the experience that they've gone through, whether a satisfactory or maybe not too smooth experience. So that is something that you may consider, the customer experience, all right?
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. I think this question is also very interesting. And there's a lot of insight that need to be discussed about this topic, how to grasp the customer. And I think maybe it's also a suggestion for another topic for the P-Talk of April in the future. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Asal Santan, again for the very good questions. And I think we have enough time for another questions, maybe the last question for the Q&A sessions. The question should be from Mr. Hamas Alta again. So he's raising a challenges faced by the SMEs that the SME never focus on training of employees, and how we motivate SMEs to arrange training sessions for their employees. I think maybe we narrow it down like a training session for cost reduction, maybe. Mr. Alex, yes.
Of course, you see, for most of the small and medium enterprise, the last thing they will do is provide training because they don't see the return of investment, right? So let me just change the position, right? So when I work in the company, I taking care of company like around 200 plus people, and also another company I work with is actually close to 1,000 workers, right? So somehow or other, I needed to provide training to my worker in order that they are competent to do the job, right? Competence is the reason that what I needed. But somehow or other, in order to get the budget or the resources for my management will be never ever easy, because from their point of view, they don't see the value. They don't see the outcome, all right? So in this context, what I always do when I employ, right? So if I want to train my worker, I will ensure every training that they are completed, they bring back value. And the value is actually something that I ask them to present and show to the management. That's how I get the next approval and the next and next approval on the budget. Let's say, let's say we send 3 workers. We spend 3,000 ringgit to send 3 workers for a cost reduction training. So after the training, what is the outcome? Do we actually follow? Do we actually trace the outcome of the training? Do we check the effectiveness of the training? So in my context, I ensure this is actually followed through. So they actually have to do a mini project. They'll actually have to start up some improvement group or whatever. Depends on the title of the training that they actually engage with. Then they actually have to come up something that is measurable. It's something that with tangible number that I can justify and show to the management. So coming back to the question, how we can motivate the SME to train their worker, we needed to justify their investment in the training. So you have to show them what is the outcome. So again, the price tag. Okay, so I hope able to take that answer the questions. Now to you, Mr. Sun.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Alex, and to all our viewer who have posted the question in the chat box. So I think we run out of time now. So I think for our viewer who have not posted the question, you may still continue to post question, and then we will continue to get back to you later on. So as a final remark, so Mr. Alex, can you give a wrap-up message to our viewer in the cost reduction? Thank you.
Yes, you see, you can see that just now what I'm sharing is very something that very straightforward. So I believe we all agree that cost reduction is important. First, second, SME have limitation in terms of resources, data, competence, personnel, and all that. All right. So I believe there's another point that we all can agree with. All right. So now coming back to the cost reduction approach that we can use, always use very simple things, not complicated one, straightforward, so everyone can do the cost reduction. All right. So that's why you can see that just now the example that I shared with you, I only use a bar chart, just a bar chart to show how much is the money. So for SME cost reduction, please try to visualize and make use very simple tools or bar and all that. Do not use complicated, because they do not have the resources and they do not have the data with that. All right. So I hope this will help in your, maybe in your initiative to have better cost reduction with SME.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex, for your insight. And I'm very impressive at your, you're saying that reduce waste, not reduce qualities. Reduce cost, not reduce the qualities. So thank you very much again. So the IPO look forward to having you more in the P-Talk in the futures. And to our viewer, we hope that you found Mr. Alex's insight on rapid cost reduction approaches for SME useful and applicable to your organization and in your context. And please don't forget to leave your questions and comment on today's topics on the IPO YouTube channel, and we will respond as soon as possible. The IPO will host more P-Talk and other digital programs featuring different guest speakers. Please subscribe to and follow our YouTube channel for continuing updates on current productivity issues and resources. We'll be looking forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much, everyone, especially Mr. Alex. Please take care and goodbye for now.